So it is Monday, August 4th at 6 p.m. I'm going to call to order our Cannabis Control Commission meeting. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Deputy Mayor Thomas Brennan.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Jenny, please join us. Or no, Revi for this one. So we have one regular item, the Tier 2 manufacturing license for Sedman Sweets, on for discussion approval.
Yeah. So this is a renewal of an existing manufacturing Tier 2 license. This was originally approved in 2023, coming back for regular renewal with you. I reached out to other city staff, Public Works, Police, and Fire. They had no concerns to note about the operations and location. I haven't heard any comments, concerns from the public about operations in this location in my tenure. So at this point, I'll defer to you for any questions.
All right. Any questions from council? No. Hearing no concerns, would someone like to make a motion to approve this license for Sedwin Sweets?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Charlie, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. That's the end of the cannabis control agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 That meeting is adjourned. So it is 6:02 p.m. Calling to order the Liquor Control Board meeting. Now Jenny will join us. So we have on here a sidewalk permit renewal for Golden Hour and several renewals for McKees.
Keys. Yes, so staff has no concerns for either of these applicants.
All right. Any questions from council? Hearing no concerns, do I have a motion to approve both items A and B?
Moved.
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is the end of the Liquor Control Board meeting agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Charlie, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye. Motion carries. Meeting adjourned. So 6:03 p.m. Calling to order the Winooski City Council meeting. First up is agenda review. Any concerns about the order this evening? Okay, great. Next up is public comment. We have no one in the room. Let me see if we have anyone on Zoom. If you are attending via Zoom and you wanted to speak during public comment about something not on this evening's agenda, you can use the chat or raised hand feature to let us know. Okay. Seeing no public comment, we'll move to our consent agenda. So we have our council meeting minutes from July 14th, payroll warrant for July 6 to 19, accounts payable July 23, small business loan committee appointments, planning commission appointments, resolution recognizing International Youth Day, a transfer of water main from Champlain Water District to the city, reappointment of a health officer and new appointments of deputy health officers, annual approval of the local emergency management plan, and community services scholarship fund fundraising campaign. Bryn, I see your hand.
I would just need to abstain from the minutes from July 14th.
Oh, sure. Any other consent agenda questions, concerns? Okay, so I will take a motion to approve the city council meeting minutes from July 14th. So moved.
Second.
Motion by Aurora, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Did you say aye, Charlie?
I wasn't here for that meeting.
Okay, 3 ayes. Those abstaining?
I abstain.
All right, so that motion carries. Items B through J. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Aurora, second by Charlie. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Consent agenda approved. So we are on to council reports. Would you like to start, Aurora?
Sure. I don't have a huge report. The Inclusion and Belonging Commission meeting is going to meet this month, and that's going to be August 21st at 6 p.m. over Zoom.
Bryn, would you like to go next?
I want to extend my thanks to Councilor Hurd for attending the Infrastructure Commission meeting on my behalf while I was out on vacation. So thank you so much for that. I don't have any other updates at this time. We should be meeting on a regular time and date, the third Thursday of the month. It may be online, since we usually meet at the community room at the pool. I know it was moved online this past month, because of swim meet, so we try to meet in person if we can, but just look for public notices to see if that will be online only.
Excellent.
Oh, yes, and I did forget, I wanted to add a couple other meetings, stuff from the municipal infrastructure meeting. They began discussions on both the work plan and also looking at where we might next do some traffic calming research. So folks that are interested in that, they're going to continue that discussion at the next meeting.
All right, thank you. I have nothing to report. Thomas.
Amazing. Also nothing to report. Safe, Healthy, Connected People Commission is meeting tomorrow at 5:30, and you can find the Zoom link online.
Thank you. Charlie.
The Winooski Housing Commission met a couple weeks ago on July 22nd. It was called a special meeting. They approved changes to the Housing Trust Fund, including language to affect the down payment assistance program and the interest rate buy down program. They also discussed the MOU with CHT around the housing improvement program, but more will go into that at the next meeting. We should meet again at our regular scheduled time and date, the third Tuesday of this month.
All right, thank you. Moving on to city updates, Elaine.
Yep, so tomorrow, Tuesday, August 5th, the Department of Public Works will close a section of Bellevue Street between Franklin Street and Hood Street from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. for road work. The closure may last up to 2 days. This work will require a lane closure and parking restrictions. Motorists, pedestrians, and residents are asked to use caution when traveling through the area. For full details, please visit the news update section at winooskivt.gov. The Burlington-Winooski Bridge Project team is hiring a part-time community liaison to support local businesses during construction. This role will serve as the primary point of contact for businesses within the project area, helping to share updates, gather feedback, and ensure strong community connections throughout the process. We're seeking someone with local knowledge of Winooski and Burlington, especially the side closest to us, strong, empathetic communication skills, and a proactive and organized approach to community engagement. Experience in public outreach or working with small businesses is a plus. To learn more and apply, please visit winooskivt.gov/jobs.
Thank you. On to our regular items. First up is the Grand List Errors and Omissions. I assume we're expecting Ted to join us for that?
I forgot to invite him, frankly, but this one, and partly because it's just not a very dramatic one. So Jenny might back me up here, or Angela. But so just for the public's reference, when real or personal property estate is omitted from the grand list by mistake or by an obvious error, or if an obvious error is found in the grand list, the assessor with approval of council may supply such omissions or correct such errors, and they have to do that before December 31st. So staff were asking for council to review this list now so that it's ahead of the August 15th tax bill due date and there aren't any adjustments required. The attached list of entries that is in the packet for council and on the website for the public. The entries in the 2025 grand list require correction are pretty straightforward. One of them is pretty non-controversial because the business actually closed as of April 1, which is when the grand list is supposed to be up to date until. And so there's an adjustment from that one. And then council, I think, is aware of the appealed value that resulted in a settled amount, which now also has to be adjusted. Are there any questions?
All right. No questions from council? Any questions from members of the public? Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Charlie. All those in favor, please say aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up for discussion is our quarterly goal update for safe, healthy, connected people.
And I am here virtually. I don't know if y'all can hear me.
We can hear you. Welcome, Ray.
So I'm doing double duty at the end of year swim team party for my kiddos. So thank you for your patience. But yeah, not a ton on the community services side. That's kind of new to report there. Some updates obviously around the timeline for the CHT project, which I think has all been hopefully pretty well broadcast. Continuing to work through environmental mitigation with CHT and with the state. And at this point, targeting probably early 2026 for construction start. So we are working towards that goal as we think about new space for the library and for a temporary period of time and you know, just kind of getting the building ready to go for that construction start and hopefully March, April, we're thinking. And then on the park side, just you know, more of an operational update, but I think worth note some great park cleanup days early in the summer here at Cassavant Memorial and Gilbrook. Some great volunteer support. So that's a model we're looking to carry forward over the next couple months until the snow flies, and then hopefully again in future years.
And it might be confusing, but this is actually the last update for the FY25 policy,
Correct.
priorities, and strategies.
Correct.
So this does not include what's happened this month.
All right. Are there any questions from council on the content of this update?
I do have one, but it's for Chief Huizinga, so I might reach out via email.
Okay. Bryn?
Yeah, Ray, I was looking at the cleanup dates and I can't recall off the top of my head if there were any weekend or afternoon dates when it's not during the middle of a workday.
Yeah, I do not have those dates right in front of me. I think that there is a Saturday date in October. I will double check that, but I know that's something Robin and I had talked about for that reason of trying to make it accessible to folks that are working during the day.
Okay.
I'm fairly certain there's a weekend one in October.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ray.
Yeah, no worries.
Ray, unless there was an update since Safe Healthy Connected met last, the October date is October 24th, which is a Friday, but I didn't write down the time, so maybe it's after work.
Okay, I can double check that. And I think regardless, that's good feedback, Bryn, to think about potentially adding a Saturday date in there.
Yeah, even late afternoon, like around 4 or even 5 o'clock would probably just open up some opportunities for others that want to participate that they can't because it's during normal work hours, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday kind of thing.
Yep, definitely.
All right. Any other questions? Any questions from members of the public? Okay. Thank you for the update.
Thanks, Ray.
We will move on to item C, overview of amendments to the Unified Land Use and Development Regulations for inclusionary zoning. Welcome back, Revi, and welcome, Jasmine.
Okay, so let's see, where should we start? I feel like this is a pretty big change that we're making to the Unified Land Use and Development Regulations. So I think we should go through it step by step and address any questions that you might have. To start with, proposed changes that we're looking to do would require an affordable housing component for any project that has 20 more units in the city. I think it'd be much easier if I just go through it and show how an applicant could and would be able to meet this requirement. They can meet this requirement in a variety of ways, either by allocating 20% at a price of the 80% AMI level set by the Federal Housing and Urban Development, or 10% at fair market rent, as well as, I believe, 10% for if the project has units for sale, and those units would be priced at 120% of the area median income. So I think it might be best if we just project the draft regulations and then just go through it step by step.
Great.
Do you want me to run that, or you want to?
If you can run it, that'd be great. I'm not in the Zoom meeting.
Paul, do you think you could beat me to it?
I am trying.
For anyone unfamiliar, which I think we have discussed this before, but inclusionary zoning requires new development to set aside an allotted amount of units that have to be designated as affordable housing units. So for both rental buildings that are built and homes built for sale. Yeah. A lot of municipalities have this. Burlington's had it since 1991, maybe 96.
Yeah, early, it's like late 80s,
Yeah.
early 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Burlington was one of the first inclusionary zoning programs in the US, which is quite interesting.
Yep.
I have it on my computer. I'm just waiting for the share permission.
And this is our introduction to council. And so the decision point tonight is about setting a public hearing to get some input before taking action.
Okay, great. So to start off, this is going to be a completely new section in the zoning regulations. There's no existing section, so this would be titled under 5.16. There's the intent, the purpose, as we just described, what the point is, and what our goals are with these regulations. Scrolling downwards under B and C, the applicability and the exemptions of these regulations. The exemptions are very limited to projects that are developed and owned by an educational institution, senior housing, or projects that have all affordable units. So these pretty much meet needs that are identified in the city and the county in terms of senior housing, and then of course affordable housing. With the inclusionary units, the requirements as followed. So for any project in the city with 20 or more dwelling units, they can meet the requirement by either having 10% of those units with the rent set at 60% of AMI income or below. And then do you want to?
Yeah, I'll
Stop.
explain.
Yes, please.
Sorry. So there's two options, essentially to give developers a little bit more flexibility while trying to maintain, somewhat of equality between the two. So the first option offers less total units at a more intensely affordable rate. And then the second option is more units at a essentially a less affordable rate. So the first option would be 10% of the units at HUD fair market rent level, which is set annually by HUD. That's what all the housing authorities use. And then a 60% AMI income threshold to pair with that. And then the other option would be 20% of the units, so double the amount of units with the rent set at 80% AMI. So 80% AMI is essentially the median rent that I've at least found during the landlord survey in Winooski. It is still quite a bit lower than a lot of the state standards and targets, which sometimes are using 100 or 120% AMI. But 80% rent amount is definitely not nothing. We know of one development that was just built. They built about 20 units and all of those have been rented at 80% AMI. And that is a completely market rate development. So, we talked about this a little bit at the developer roundtable, but, 20%, 80% AMI really shouldn't be entirely difficult for most developers at this point, just because it's not out of the range of average rents in Winooski right now. But for those who feel like they would like to have less units that they need to, designate as affordable perpetually, they can choose to do 10%. But they do need to be more deeply affordable. So that is closer to 60% AMI. So for homes built for sale, the number, there's just one number for that, and it's 100% or 120% AMI. That is kind of the standard with homes built for sale. It's almost impossible to go anything below that and still have it be feasible for people to be financially able to purchase a home, even if the home is affordable. There was quite a few recommendations at the developer roundtable to keep that at 120, not at 100% AMI. And that does kind of align with most of our regulations where our AMI for rental units is typically around 80%, or we're starting to move in that direction. It's not all uniform yet. And then homes built for sale closer to that 120 amount.
And I recall nonprofit developers.
Yeah, I would see.
supporting
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
Yeah, to further clarify how an applicant would meet the requirements is that if hypothetically a project is proposed to have 20 units, then 16 of those units would have to be at market rate, and then at least 4 of those units would have to be priced at 80% AMI, because that would be 20% of the project. Moving on for other aspects, one of the incentives on the following page is to count any and every affordable dwelling unit in a project that has 3 or more bedrooms as 2 affordable units, just to incentivize the development of more larger affordable units that are needed in the city. Further standards on location of the inclusion of the affordable housing units, size, number of bedrooms, and specifications within the units. Income eligibility, I think you can probably speak more to that about income eligibility, Jasmine.
Yeah. Can you scroll down a little bit? Thank you. Yeah, so income eligibility is a little different from the amount that the rent is marketed as. It's the income of the tenant themselves. Some programs have those be different numbers, like I think Burlington actually does 100% AMI, but the rent's at 65%. Some of them are quite complicated, but this is essentially cross-referencing with the definitions, what is that, in 514?
Yes.
And so that references that will be 100%, 100% AMI for the income for the 80% option, and then for the homes built for sale. We might end up tweaking that a little bit in the future once it gets opened back up again. But for now, that number is at 100. Yeah, so those are 2 separate numbers, where the actual rent price and then the income eligibility of the person moving in. And it was kind of determined, there was some debate back and forth between the 2 commissions about if we wanted to require annual recertification of income, or if we wanted it to only be at sale or new lease up for each unit. And it was determined, and it is generally best practice to just do it at new lease up or sale of the property. This just allows for more flexibility. It kind of works against the classic benefits cliffs, which ends up disincentivizing people from continuing to attain to earn more and increase their wealth. With the risk of, if I got a promotion or if I work more hours, I might lose my affordable unit. And that, of course, works against kind of the entire point of, inclusionary zoning and affordable housing units as a mechanism to lift people up out of poverty. So it will be, obviously, we will start this with 0 units in the inclusionary zoning bank, and with every development that gets built in the coming years, the units that are designated to be affordable will be added to that list, and we will monitor that annually. But unless someone is, starting a new lease when the building is started, or a new tenant is leasing that specific affordable unit, we won't be asking for income recertification, which is also a lot more administratively feasible for us, for the owner. It's what everyone else, not that we have to do what everyone else does, but it's what all the other municipalities do as well.
So for duration of affordability, talking about perpetually affordable housing, typically an applicant would give me a draft legal instrument showing that the unit or specific unit is going to be perpetually affordable, and then they would be responsible for recording it before they close the permit, and I make sure of that. And then with incentives, so under 24 VSA 4414, we have to have incentives for this type of regulation. So we already have some incentives under the priority housing incentives under 5.14, which allows for additional lot coverage. So an applicant could meet both incentives potentially, that they could get the additional lot coverage depending on the location of their project, along with having to meet the inclusionary zoning requirements. If they go above and beyond that in particular locations, specifically our corridors, they could get a parking reduction or increased height. There's already an increased bonus story allowance that's written into statute that we already have in our priority housing incentives section. With the reduced parking, this was a discussion point among planning commissioners. Studies show that affordable housing units typically utilize less parking, and including affordable housing is a pretty common TDM strategy that's in TDM ordinances in various municipalities. So we saw that as a potential incentive to provide, especially considering that studies show that much parking may not be utilized at the end of the day in many of these locations. Let's see. Transportation demand management. Thanks. Payment in lieu. So this will be set in our fee ordinance, as with all fees. The recommended payment in lieu is set at $65,000 for each inclusionary unit. This number was determined based off of an affordability gap calculation. This is a difference between the market rate rents and the affordable housing rents. And then we also compared this number that we got out of this calculation with nearby municipalities and determined that 65,000 would be appropriate when compared to nearby municipalities.
Bevy, how did you land on only 50%, only allowing up to 50% payment in lieu?
I think, well, there was a lot of back and forth of if we wanted to allow payment in lieu at all. Because obviously it's nice to allot some flexibility, especially with market conditions being fairly volatile, and just the need for housing being very desperate at this point. But since Winooski is so small, we just can't have that many developments year to year. So it does feel a bit like a lost opportunity if we had people regularly paying out, doing the payment in lieu. And yes, we would end up with a lot of money in our housing trust fund, which is great. But I don't think that the programming in there, I think it is obviously impactful, but it's not necessarily as impactful and tangible in the moment as building an affordable unit. And that money can't be used to build, that's not really what we do. We can explore ways to use that funding in more creative ways if that pot of money grows quite a bit. But at the end of the day, it's most impactful to actually have the affordable units rather than have money. So it was kind of a compromise that we figured we would allow developers to do it if they felt like they needed to, but that we didn't want them to be able to do it for every single affordable unit, and that they did need to build some, because the entire point of inclusionary zoning is to economically integrate new development. And by paying out you just can completely avoid that, and we end up with, you know, brand new all market rate buildings, and people that aren't able to access those newer kind of revitalized areas of the city. So it was kind of determined that we would allow some flexibility, but not a complete payout of the requirement.
Thank you.
Actually, I also had a question on this one. So they make this payment in lieu, I assume, and from looking at further once, correct? Is there any way or logic to make it a fee that they have to pay regularly? Because it's taking stuff off these units would be affordable otherwise for a very long time.
I think no, because it would be perpetual. So I don't know if we could like require a fee perpetually. I don't know. I guess that's what taxes is. But yeah, I think standard is just one time, because like property ownership changes, and yeah, I think just the fact that it is perpetual. If it was maybe constrained to like a 10-year affordability, which obviously we don't want, but then maybe that would make more sense. But yeah, I think.
Yeah, common practice is to have it as a one-time payment in lieu. I haven't seen any municipalities that would have like an annual payment in lieu for that affordable unit. And the affordability gap calculation takes into consideration that rent difference over a year, pretty much. So there is that aspect built into it, that it does cover not just like 1 month or like 1 week. It covers as I would say a solid chunk of time.
It's like 30 years.
No. To double check how I did the calculation. No. But
The idea
Yes.
is that it is like calculating for the rent for.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that rent loss over a year. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you suspect that that's because it would be prohibitive to have a perpetual fee like that to development?
Maybe.
what is
I mean,
it?
it is
Not
also
common.
prohibitive to pay $65,000 per unit upfront when you have all of these other costs. But to be fair, like, we don't necessarily want it to be non-prohibitive. Like, we don't want to,
You don't
encourage
want people to
it.
pay it, yeah.
yeah, I
Like
mean,
in theory, we want people to build.
yeah, we shouldn't offer it as an option if we don't think it's feasible at all, because that's a waste of everyone's time. Like, we do think it's feasible, and it is in alignment with other municipalities. Some have quite a lot more. Like, I think Portland, Maine's is 150,000. Burlington's is 45.
Yeah, but they're reevaluating their inclusionary.
Yeah,
limits.
it's kind of best to find, you know, some people using it, some people not, because one way or the other means it's either too low or it's too high. But yeah, I wouldn't say we want to overly incentivize it
Yeah,
personally.
Yeah.
that's kind of my thought. It would be better to have more long-term affordable housing than for folks to opt out with a dropping 65K.
Yeah, I also,
For 1 year? I'm just also
Yeah.
thinking about
no,
how
it's
we
not just the
calculated
gap
the.
for 1 year.
It's
I mean, the gap is a couple $100.
no, it's the gap for 1 year
For how many units?
for 1 unit.
That doesn't make sense.
No, no,
No
no.
one's paying 65 grand a year
Okay.
for rent.
So then it's let me double check.
I mean,
Somebody might.
I think it's like a 30-year, like, 'cause it's
Yeah.
a couple $100 difference between like affordable and market rate, and yeah,
And then taking into consideration the cap rate too.
yes,
So 1 year of rent over the cap rate.
yes.
Um,
Revy has a memo, but we can also share that.
yeah,
The math was done correctly.
I did the math back in September, so that's why my memory's a little hazy about it.
I do remember it being discussed at commission several months ago, and there was rationale in it. I cannot remember the duration
Yeah.
either.
I
I
know.
do believe it was multiple years.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not 1 year.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
No, that wouldn't make sense.
Okay, I just wanted to poke it or examine that a little bit more.
That makes sense. Okay. You want me to keep going?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm fully
Let's
distracted,
see.
but yes, please.
So these are just some of the application requirements, most of which Revy is already collecting. I can talk a little bit about the procedure needs to be built out a little bit more thoroughly. But at this point, I've met pretty frequently with Burlington's CEDO team because they just recently actually started auditing their own inclusionary zoning program, which obviously is a much larger lift considering how old the program is. And there's hundreds of units on there that they had to go back and audit. But I've been kind of consulting with them to talk about best practices for ongoing monitoring to ensure that people are complying with the program. So I have kind of, created a workflow, and at this point, it makes the most sense for the owners of the property to submit an NIZ reporting form that I have created that asks quite a lot of information about the tenant's income, about the rent prices, about the date that the tenant moved in. It talks about utility allotment as well to make sure that they're not charging over the allowed amount if they're not including utilities. And so that would get sent to the owners. Obviously, like when a building is built, they need to do it immediately for all of their new IZ units, and then it would be sent annually. I think I'll probably do calendar year, so January 1st, just to get it off of the short-term rental cycle, keep them separate. And they will submit that annually just so that I can continue to monitor that. I did talk a little bit with Winooski Housing about them doing income verification on behalf of the city, but it actually doesn't make sense legally because they aren't able to verify third-party information if it's not information that they have, like someone that's applying to their program. And then the city, we also don't want to end up with people's W-2s and social security letters and things like that. So best practice is to have the owners self-certify. They do sign their name and self-certify, and we can put in that the city is able to kind of audit and request additional information and contact, tenants directly if there are complaints or something fishy might be going on. So it does allow for some nuance with that. But and I will say, obviously, WHA is a great partner, and they have offered, if there are any instances where, assets are seeming weird or there's a complaint, they're happy to help us do that. And they have also offered, if we want to audit rent rolls semi-regularly, which is what Burlington does, they've also offered to go through that as well, just to flag any inconsistencies. But since we are starting from zero, I don't imagine the number becoming untenable probably in the next, I don't know. It'd be great if it was, because that would mean that we had a lot of affordable units, but I don't imagine the number being higher than 100 maybe in the next 50 years. I don't know. So I think we were doing rough math of the amount that would be on the list if we had started this in 2017 or when form-based code started, so maybe 2016. And I think it was 30 units. So yeah, it shouldn't be a heavy lift. Do you have a question, Councilor Oakleaf?
A couple, so I can hold it until the end or go now?
I think that's the end.
Yeah, the remainder of it is an inconsistency that the city attorney picked up in terms of the term development project. We didn't have it defined, and it might create some confusion. So I went through, cleaned up the term development project, defining it, and then cleaning it up in other parts of the regulations that have the term development project, removing either project or development in order to remove any vagueness or confusion from the term.
All right, go ahead, Betty.
Just quick house cleaning on page 59, section K. It mentions the city's housing initiative director. Is that a separate role than Jasmine?
That's your title,
Yeah,
right?
that's my title.
That is your title.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to just make sure it wasn't housing director and we were,
No, no.
Okay.
It's a long name.
great. Some other just general questions I had. So I think I saw in there, a height restriction of no higher than 85 feet. Can you confirm how many stories that is?
That really depends on the type of roof and where the height is measured. Height is from the average grade to either the highest point on a flat roof or the midpoint in the eaves of a pitched roof. So the amount of floors can really vary. It could be 9 to 10.5 floors, depending on how you measure it. That 85 feet limit was something that I had discussed with Chief Audi to make sure that our fire department can adequately service a building that tall if anyone were to get the bonus story. It's like few and far between based on studies and practices, just because it's much easier for developers to build outward horizontally than vertically, that it's not cost effective for them to build that extra story for the additional units typically compared to building outward and taking up more lot coverage. But it is something that I touch base with our fire department to make sure that we're not setting height limits too tall that we wouldn't be able to service.
Yeah, I mean, that leads right into the follow-up question I was gonna have is this fire truck that we haven't even received yet going to be tall enough to reach a 10-foot story building?
Supposed to be, right?
It's supposed to be.
If the chief said so, then yes. If he reviewed that number and said yes, then
Yeah.
yes.
Okay,
We'll get it someday.
yes.
They're in production, which is,
Wow,
That's advancement.
yes.
that's kind of big.
Yeah,
We're talking
if
about logo, there he is.
Yeah, if I could just, I can't get my video on, but if I could clarify that, you know, there's no fire department that's gonna reach the top of a 10-story building locally. So our new truck will not. However, once you pass a certain story, the building's classified as a high rise, so the fire protection systems become much more robust. And that's really what, you know, emergency services depend on, so.
Thanks for clarifying, John.
Thanks, John.
So as a follow-up to that, can you remind me or restate which zoning districts a 10-foot story building would be able to be built in?
So that incentive only applies to the corridors. So it'd be the gateway, the downtown core, and the C2. However, so it would really, yes. So it'd be all three of those districts potentially.
All right, given all of that, do you have a sense for what parcels would, without raising anything right now that exists, is there any open space where these 20+ buildings would be able to be built?
Yeah. It's I mean, it's hard to predict or tell just because there have been projects that have reconfigured parcels, that have combined parcels in order to develop 20+ units. To think,
Mostly redevelopment. though.
yeah, like,
But that's not, I feel like there's a lot of like people acquiring, adjoining parcels and talking about redevelopment of, larger parcels. So I feel like
yeah,
redevelopment, yes.
Yeah.
Empty land, not so much,
How
but
many units was 111 East Elm?
111 is
22,
22.
22, yeah.
So that gives a sense of scale. That,
Yeah.
I mean, that parcel looked so tiny to me before the building went up, and I was like, oh, it doesn't look that big to me. So if
Yeah.
that helps for picturing where else that amount could go.
Yeah, there are plenty that can host 20 units if they can get the parking right. That's a huge inhibiting factor for development for Winooski's parking requirements. But in terms of developing at a scale that would develop upward and massively, it really depends on the site configuration, the lot considerations, soils, whether it's just all ledge underground, multitude of factors that I can't really judge right now.
I will say too, the number 20 was chosen, and it's probably on more of the like conservative end of things, just based off of the fact that we just want to be really careful to not damper any small scale development. So, you know, it's very rare to see a 10 to 19 unit development at this point because development costs are so much. You know, it's, you know, you usually see the over 20 because that's where you can recoup some of your money, or you see, you know, 4, 5, maybe 9. So we thought even though there's not a lot of development in that middle area, if it were to happen, IZ can potentially really financially hit a project that's smaller scale, and any project that's over 20 has just a lot larger numbers, so they can take a hit of a, you know, couple $100s a month.
Okay, yeah, that was gonna be a follow-up question, was if 20 was selected based off of Burlington or based off of other municipalities, or if there was other reasoning of our own to set it at 20. So that was a follow-up question that I had too.
I think Burlington's is dependent on the zoning.
Yes,
District.
it's dependent on the zoning district and the cost of development. So for more expensive projects or projects that are at a higher rate for sale, then those projects would be required to provide more inclusionary units.
Okay. And then 2 more questions. Did you, through your research and drafting, did you uncover any lessons learned from Burlington or other Vermont municipalities that have IZ?
Yeah, I think, you know, unfortunately, no tool is perfect. So I think that at least Burlington has created a process of kind of continual improvement. Like I know they do have a committee that meets regularly. I think they're updating some of their regulations surrounding IZ now. So, I mean, I think, you know, a mentality of trying to be nimble within a seemingly ever-changing housing market would only benefit us. Obviously, these things take time and energy and money, especially when they're in our regulations. But I think, you know, listening to the development community and, you know, what's going on is going to be helpful in understanding, you know, if this is just right, or if it's overly restrictive, or if we feel like it's easily attainable by everyone and we feel like, you know, maybe we want a higher percentage of affordable units or a lower AMI. I think, you know, all of the other municipalities that have more recently done IZ, which is what, South Burlington, Williston, Heinsberg, you know, they've all been semi-regularly changing and updating their regulations. So I think a mentality that things might need to change a little bit in the future. But I say that about everything.
Yeah, I mean, inclusionary zoning is this, just like with all zoning, it's this negotiation between flexibility and finality that we have to draw a line in the sand and say, like, this is what we want from our city and this is what we want to see in our city in the near future, but at the same time provide that flexibility because there's so much unpredictability in the market and in everyday life. So that flexibility and finality, at least to me, is something that I have thought about with the in lieu fee, making sure that it's at a high enough bar that we want to encourage the affordable housing to be developed, but at the same time, not too high that we just kill projects that need to not have one affordable unit. That provides some flexibility, but not to the degree of flexibility that really breaks the objectives of the regulation. Same goes for the applicability, is providing some flexibility with the understanding that we don't want to kill the smaller scale projects, especially the projects that are being incentivized in our priority housing incentives in our residential districts that offer for sale affordable housing units, that offer larger units in our residential districts, and at the same time providing, making sure that we do set the bar somewhere to require affordable housing units at a significant rate that would provide that benefit to the city.
Thanks for the context on that. That's helpful. I'm curious how IZ interplays with planned unit developments. Can you speak about that?
It's kind of on its own. So, because inclusionary zoning applies to projects in the gateway that don't go through the DRB review process, that goes through our project review process with staff. It also applies to DRB projects. It also applies to downtown core projects that go through the review process. So if a project wanted to configure as a planned unit development in our residential districts potentially, then IZ would kick in because IZ applies to the entire city. It's a review process that is separate from the inclusionary zoning requirement, but it could be sort of working hand in hand if an applicant wants to create a 20+ unit planned unit development.
Okay, cool. And then double questions, 2 comments. I definitely support the 120 AMI. I feel like I've been seeing that in a lot of other locations. So I'm pleased to see that here as well. And then my only thing for adding some potential encouraged incentives in some way, or I would love to see some type of green space, rain garden management, landscaping, something that just doesn't, take up the entire property and parcel and make it a entirely impervious surface or nearly entire impervious surface. Would just be my final comment there.
Okay.
I think, Revy, there's constraints on that in all, like for any project, right? On how much
Yes.
impervious surface?
Yeah. So in the gateway districts, there is a 15% open space requirement with typologies for different types of open space. With this, the C2 district is the only district that I can think of, as well as the downtown core with the 100% lot coverage requirement that we'll have to. I have some ideas about. And then in our residential districts, that is at a 50% open space requirement, notwithstanding the priority housing incentives.
Okay, thank you.
I have one more question. Getting back to the you gotta be flexible, you gotta revisit this, you can't get it perfect. Historically, we've had a good share of subsidized affordable housing and then stuff that is out of reach for most people. And we talk about that missing middle. And I wonder if you saw through your research or looking at other communities, if inclusionary zoning has had an impact on that in either direction.
Yeah, I think the affordable range of homeownership is in the missing middle. Frankly, I don't think that there right now is homeownership opportunity for anyone that would be actually considered to be low income. Unfortunately, just based off of how our financial system works and the options that are available for even affordable homeownership. I think for rental units, it is a little hard because, IZ does have the possibility of, the market rate units floating up a little bit to offset some of the lost, finances from the lower monthly rent for the, affordable units. So I think it is difficult to balance all three, or at least the two of them for the affordable units and the moderate income units as well. But I think compared to our, subsidized affordable housing, so some of Winooski Housing Authority's buildings, 80% AMI really is kind of in that missing middle range. I know that the state uses the term up to 120% AMI, but I know for an individual, 100% AMI is $90,000, which is a lot more than the median income for most people that live here. And, I always carry my little handy sheet, but 80% is 72,000, which I think is also above the median income. So I would say that the 80% sounds low compared to some other numbers that are used statewide, I think, frequently. But, to be frank, 80% AMI is probably what many working class people earn, if not less than that. So it's not perfect though. I agree.
No, that's helpful context though. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was wondering, I kind of wanted to circle back to the inclusionary housing standards, specifically 3 and 5. I guess 4 as well, but mostly 3 and 5, where it seems to allow for, I don't know, less quality and less space. And on one hand, I kind of get giving that, but also it feels, it doesn't seem very equitable to be like, oh, you can get away with using cheaper countertop or cheaper fridge, or maybe I'm misreading what it says there.
I think it's really mostly size.
It's only mostly
Yeah.
size. The amenities should be similar, if not the same. The size can be smaller to account for that price differential. And that's pretty standard looking at other zoning regulations on inclusionary.
I think ideally that would not be
Yeah.
it is not equitable technically,
Yeah.
and I agree about that. But I think just trying to be realistic about what's feasible for developers, I think it's probably better to have an affordable unit that is 80% smaller than to not have one at all, or not have the project pencil out. So I think those are just minor flexibilities that that are just the standard practice in order for these projects to still pencil out.
Okay, so it sounds like that you just said that you don't think 3 will happen. Should we just remove the language then? Because that says affordable dwelling units may differ from market rate units regarding interior amenities.
I think that is partially because some of these apartment buildings end up having luxury units. So there are some that might have on the top floor and maybe they have a balcony or they have marble countertop. It's pretty standard in apartment buildings to have units that differ based off of interior quality and, location within the building. Obviously, we know size. So I think that allows for a little bit of flexibility so that, I know for the Nest condos that were built, for example, I think that there's a few of the penthouses that are probably premium grade. But I do know that there are affordable condos that were sold in that building, required by Burlington's inclusionary zoning regulations. So, the internal amenities might differ a little bit, but it is still a luxury building. So I thought that was cool that there were units in there. But
Okay, that's helpful context to have. Another question that I have, which I think I already know the answer to, this will probably not apply to any buildings that are currently in process. No. Yep.
No.
All right, those are my questions.
We've got a lot of parcels that could still redevelop as a data.
True, it's true.
it's really a constant.
Yeah.
Was there any discussion by the commissioners or yourselves about removing parking requirements for buildings that or more than the 10% over the minimum of affordable units?
It's an uphill battle. It's something that I've been nudging with the planning commission about parking requirements, just because currently best practices in zoning is to remove parking requirements altogether. And I think that's an ongoing conversation with you and with the planning commission about where do you want to go with parking and how do you want to manage it? And also, how do you want to manage traffic flow for all users too? Just to keep mind of externalities that could happen with removing parking requirements. So even with the current reductions, I think that was a conversation, as well as the studies show that parking utilization is significantly lower for affordable housing developments and affordable housing units, that this is a common strategy for transportation demand management, and going from there. And I think that further conversations about reducing parking requirements is going to continue with all of you.
This also did happen like right after TDM. So I think, you know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of reductions recently, but
Yeah.
not necessarily enough.
I would add for commission context that there have been some reductions made in the past year that they haven't been able to see it play out yet, right? So I think there's some hesitancy there.
Yeah.
And then when it came to affordable units, there was also a lot of back and forth about concern about like an inequity that there of not providing enough parking for affordable units. I think the data is there, and it's just a matter of like getting comfortable with what that looks like without going too far.
Cool, thank you.
Are there any questions for members of the public on this inclusionary zoning discussion? If there aren't any more questions or concerns from council, I need my cover sheet to remind me of the date. Yes. Would someone, I'm hearing some support for continuing this, so would someone like to make a motion to introduce these amendments and set a public hearing on September 2nd?
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye. The motion carries. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Item D is a board appointment regarding the Development Review Board. Council received some information about this in advance of the meeting. As city council, it's up to us to make appointments to these boards. We could take action on this item right now, but an executive session has also been warned in case folks feel like we need it. There isn't a cover sheet here, but I will say, if folks are not feeling like we need an executive session, we could move on to the next regular item. And we can't make a negative motion. Elaine, help me out here.
Right, so somebody would move to appoint, and then
And then it would fail. Correct. Okay. That would be the action if we are ready to take action. Somebody could make a motion to appoint.
The folks want the executive session.
I don't feel like I need it.
Okay.
I'll go a little unorthodox. I'll make the motion to approve this board appointment. There is a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Did you just abstain?
I did.
So 2 abstentions, 2 nays. Well, we don't have a quorum or a majority, so the motion fails. Okay. Thank you. We are on to introduction to ordinance updates for Chapter 28 fees with Angela.
Hello. So this is seemingly an annual update to our ordinance. This particular introduction came about as we were alerted by our attorneys that we have no authority to waive fees in Chapter 28. However, the City Council has approved a scholarship policy that allows us to waive fees when there are cases of financial need. This has only been utilized to date for the community services department, but it is something that could be utilized in other departments in the future. It is something that we have structured that way. Since we were opening the chapter to add the language regarding fee waivers and making it an allowable action, at the same time, we have had a request from the library committee to increase the non-resident library card fee. And then we are adding some language to allow the summer programming pricing to be consistent within the same season rather than arbitrarily increasing on July 1. So having some programs in June be a lower price than the ones held in July and August, even though they're advertised at the same time. And then because we're opening the chapter, we have to update the water and wastewater allocation rates to reflect the current fiscal year numbers. They increase by construction cost index every year. And then, as was discussed previously, we are now including that new payment in lieu of affordable housing units as outlined in the ULUDR.
Thanks, Angela. My one question is whether it was appropriate to take action on the, I'm sorry, that's the ADU. I was thinking it was related to the IZ payment. Nothing from me. Question from council.
No.
Okay. So we'll take action on this at our next meeting, I assume.
For setting the hearing.
Oh, this one requires a hearing. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I get a motion to set a public hearing date for September 2nd for the Chapter 28 fees as well?
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. We are on to our last regular item. So I had shared with all of you, there has been an update to the International City Manager Association guidance on how we evaluate our city manager. That has some, I think, potentially really strong improvements for the process we've been running. So what I have in this memo is a summary of where I see an opportunity to make improvements. But what I am recommending is that 2 members of council get together and sort of hash out the details of what specifically do we want to change in our process. And I brought it to you this evening because if we're going to make changes, we have to do them before the end of the year, before we start this again in January.
Yes.
But I also thought it would be a good idea to get a jump on it before the budget process kicks off in like 2 months. So basically just open for if there's any questions about what's here, and if anyone is ready to volunteer to tackle a little bit in the weeds.
I can tackle it or be one of the folks on the subcommission.
Thank you, Aurora.
Yeah, and reviewing these, I definitely appreciated some, and they feel like moving, as you said, like towards some best practices that feel most equitable.
Yeah, I think for me the biggest thing that struck me when I was reading the updated guidance is that we haven't really, the strategies and priorities is such a big piece of the work that we do to set the stage every year, and then it comes up in our feedback, but we don't actually like consider it as a data point very much.
We don't hold them against each other with like a very clear
Yeah.
the way that we do our updates.
Would anyone else like to volunteer?
Deadline for the work of this subcommittee would be like the end of this year.
I was hoping for end of September before, because October is kind of when we start getting into budget.
Yeah.
The reason I asked this, I just can't.
Yeah.
Right now.
That's fair.
I see.
Mayor Locke, can you state the timeline again?
Ideally, this would be completed before the end of September, is what I was hoping.
Counselor Hurd, what's your,
The end of September works for me. I have some time and then the students all come back and then I have some more time.
I'd say I'm more available in August, late September. I'm not gonna be really available, so I can, work with you on that. Sooner than later might be better for both of us from the sound of it.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Brennan. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
August is busy for me at work, and then I have a very nice long vacation in September.
Maybe the goal is to get something like a recommendation to the September 15th meeting, the second meeting in September. Would be before things pick up for Bryn. Did I make this an approval item? Yeah, okay, so can I have a motion to approve Counselors Hurd and Oakleaf developing recommendations to improve our manager evaluation process?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Charlie. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Thank you. That's the end of tonight's agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Hello.
All right.
Sorry.
Motion by Charlie, second by Bryn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Yeah.
Night, y'all.
Thanks,
Have a good-
everybody.